and welcome to Junk Journaling with Emily. Come along as I learn to create junk journals and teach you what I know. So in our last video, we completed the outside of our journal here. Now here it is, that what we worked on from old books. And if you missed that one, you can go back and watch that video. I'll try to put that link in the description. But now we're going to go ahead and start creating our signatures. Now, because this is our first journal on this page, I'm going to go very simple with pieces that you can easily find or have in your stash of papers. More than likely, if you're watching this video, you like junk journaling already, so you probably have some papers in. So I'm coming in with this cardstock piece with this pretty bird and floral design from this paper studio. I believe this is from Hobby Lobby. And I'm going to come in and we're going to do kind of a vintage spring vibe, I think, on this pieces. And I'm just going to come in and use what I have on hand here. I'm not going to really go out and buy anything, but I do have some supplies here from when I was junk journaling previously. So what I'm going to do is I just went and marked the end here and trimmed up my cardstock with my regular scissors. And to attach all this to the inside lining, I am not going to worry about those edges that I'm showing you here with my fingers. I'm going to cover that with some lace. But like I was saying, I'm going to come in with some Mod Podge. But first, I'm just going to kind of crease up the edges here so that the book bends and the paper is folded where the seams are. And after I finish that process, we'll go ahead and start placing our Mod Podge on the inside of our book here. Now remember, if this is your first ever junk journal, I don't want you to worry about things being perfect or things being nice and neat. It's called a junk journal for a reason, because it is placed things and scrap pieces and handcrafted pretty papers and everything that goes into this journal like a scrapbook. Okay, so I'm coming in, like I said, with just the regular Mod Podge, and I'm going to thoroughly coat this book on the inside so that I can go ahead and attach our cardstock paper and give this journal a decorative inside opening piece. So we have our cardstock bended, so I'm going to go ahead and with my best abilities here, go ahead and lay that into our Mod Podge that we placed here, kind of just pressing it in with my hands and pressing it out with my fingers here to make sure that Mod Podge is nice and sealed with the piece. Now remember, don't worry about those edges if your paper didn't go all the way to the end, because that's what ribbon is for in the junk journaling world. Now here, I kind of didn't line it up the way it needs to, so we're going to go ahead and do one side, lift up the other side, and repeat that process of just maneuvering it with my hand. And you see that it's not quite working out as well as I thought. So we're going to just go ahead and lay this flat, seal in our piece, come again in with our hands and smoothing out that process, creasing those lines over with just my fingernail to make sure those pieces are able to bend. Now, if you have wrinkles and you have sections of your Mod Podge that really didn't get the bonding that you want it to do, you can go ahead and come in with a piece of parchment paper and your iron and go over this piece to reactivate that Mod Podge and stick your paper or your cloth and get those wrinkles out and straighten out the piece if you want a more smooth edge look or smooth look to your junk journal. Remember, junk journaling is all about your personal preference and your own creativity. So have fun and let your expressions come out on your paper and your junk journal. I'm just coming in and recreasing those marks. Now I do have a lot of wrinkles in here, but I'm going to see how this dries up. And if it's too wrinkled for me, I'll come back in, like I said, with my iron and a piece of parchment paper and smooth out the surface here. But for right now, I'm going to come in with my Mod Podge brush and just kind of go up and down on those edges so that the paper lines up. And then after we have this secured and all covered with our adhesive here, we're going to go ahead and set this aside, let that thoroughly dry. Now, if you want to come in and make sure those edges are really attached, go ahead and come in with your brush again and go under the edge of the piece, because that's where you're going to have a lot of the lifting if you have any. So I'm just reattaching that edge there. And here we are, you guys. And then we're going to go ahead and put this aside to dry. And we are going to start on our signatures for this junk journal. So just a reminder, the signatures are just the pieces of paper we put together in the sections to add to our journal. And this is where I came in with the Dollar Tree like ribbon and my Mod Podge and covered up those corner edges where the fabric and the paper had that opening that we didn't want, or I didn't like there. And this is where I say ribbon is a great cover. Washi tape, if you have any, is a great other alternative. But we are just going to go ahead and attach that ribbon using Mod Podge once again. And if that doesn't hold, you guys go ahead and come in with your Fab-Tac glue and attach your ribbon to the edges. Now we're going to go ahead and put this aside, let this thoroughly dry, and go ahead and work on the inside signatures. So remember, the inside signatures are just papers and that you're going to place together to decorate, to write on, however it is that you want your junk journal to be. You can even use it to place pictures in there. I'm going to come in with a few pieces of some vintage dictionary pages here. And I'm going to add a few pieces of those. Now, these are the really thin ones that have that kind of crinkling material, but we are going to add that in. And I'm not worried about decorating the pieces as of yet. I'm going to go ahead and add my papers first, and then I'll come back in and we'll start the decorating, adding tags and adding everything. And remember, we're going once again with a simple process here. So I'm not really tea dyeing, staining papers here or anything like that. We're just going to go in real simple. And as we progress with this channel, we'll come in and we'll tea dye papers and we'll stain papers and all that good jazz as I learn as well, so that I can come on here and show you guys how to do that as well. So I have some vintage music sheet paper here that we are also going to come in and use. And then after the music sheet, we're just going to add in some regular line paper and some regular printer paper, as well as some more cardstock pages that we're going to add in. Now, I don't keep the pages long. I fold everything in half. That way we can sew them into our signatures and sew them into our book as we gather our papers for each signature here. Now I'm just going to go ahead and pick through my stash of whatever papers I have, fold each paper in half, and I'll continue that process until I have maybe about 12 or 13 pages that I'm going to use into my journal here. And you don't have to have a similar look for each signature. You can change them up, give it variety. You know, I don't really have a designated design for this journal. I'm kind of just using the items that I have. So it's kind of going to be a little bit of a patchwork vintage / bird journal, I guess, because the inside of our binding is a bird. So we're going to work with that and let's see what we come up with. So now that you have your bundles of your 12 to 13 pages, or you can even make them longer if you want more pages, I am just going to trim these up with just my cutter tool. If you don't have this tool, just use your plain scissors there. And I'm just matching it all to my printer paper size. And if anything, it comes out larger. What I should have done here, you guys, is measure it against my book binding or my outside cover here, but I did not. We're going to go ahead and trim these to the same size as our printer paper. And as far as the cardstock, I go ahead and trim off that excess. Now, when you arrange your papers, you can arrange them however you want, but you want the folded paper, open those up and stack in your pages however you want to. You can layer them up, you can put one, you can do whatever it is you want, just making sure they're folded and that crease is all together. And when we come in to sew them into our signatures, make sure your papers are all facing the way that you want them, and so that they're not upside down. So after I gather all my pages and I work in these pieces, creating my little signature here, I trim off all the excess again, and then I just go through making sure all my pages are the same direction that I want them to be in. I repeat the process for the other stack as well, going through the book. Now, if you want to add any extra pages here, feel free to do so. I decide to go ahead and come in with another piece of start cardstock, changing up the covers for each signature. Once again, repeating that folding method here and trimming the page into size. Now you can also print out your pictures. You know, that's what my computer was here for, but it was dead, so I went another route. I decided to make the first initial covers for each signature a little bit different using that cardstock book that we used. To sew in our signatures, we're coming in with this awl here, which punches our holes, and this is some wax thread here. You don't have to use wax thread, you can use that embroidery thread as well, but the rule of thumb here is to put 3 widths of the length of your journal here, but I like to do 4, you guys, just some extra, just in case I need more. I don't know, but I'm gonna go ahead and measure that out, and I am going to punch holes here so that we can add those into our cover. So as far as the holes are concerned, I marked off where I wanted the holes to go, and because this is 2 signatures, we got to put 6 holes into our cover of our frame. We're going to bring in our awl, and I'm going to punch in those holes through all of my papers for my first signature here, or actually this will be the bottom signature or the second one. And I'm punching in 3 holes, spacing them out evenly as possible. Now you guys can measure out your holes if you want, if you feel better doing that. And then I also put holes into my cover of my journal, just placing in those holes where I feel that they would be best. Now you can get a piece of paper, make a template if you want. Well, maybe I can show you that on another video or at the end of this one. But I'm going to go ahead and just use some simple sewing, and I'm going to go ahead and sew through the holes of my signature into the backing of my cover here. Now I just have 3 holes per signature, so I have 1 row of 3 holes there, as you can see here, and I'm just sewing back and forth. Now there is no rhyme or reason to the sewing process. You can do the sewing however you want to. I'm just going from one hole to the next and back the other way. You can start from the back, you can start from the front, however it is that you feel comfortable in. Here I kind of just have to push in a little bit more of that hole there, and then I go ahead and repeat my sewing process here. And after I have this all nice and tight, and I go back in through all the holes, and I like to put 2 sewing strips through each hole. So I'll go do this twice and then end on the back there with that extra string, and we are going to tie that up. So make sure when you start sewing in, you have that tail string at the back. Now I'm looking at my gapping here. I probably could have put my holes a little farther down, but we're just going to work with this. And I'm going to finish off this signature and tie it in the knot on the back. Now, if you want your tie in the paper, you're just going to start from the inside instead of the outside. Here's where I make sure it's nice and tight. And then I'm going to tie these up in a knot, making sure it has a firm hold and the pages are not moving around. So I just this is where I decide to go in through that other hole and finish out into the middle one so that I'm able to tie the string properly. So once again, I'll have the link to this all and to this set here that I am using. I did get it off of Temu. It came with the wax strings and the needle and all this stuff just for you to sew in your signatures. Here is where I tie it thoroughly in a knot. And I'm not worried about my outside cover here because remember, I am going to layer up my pieces and make sure that the outside is just as beautiful as the inside. And I will repeat this process for the second signature, adding that into our journal here. Oh yes, and if you see those clips, make sure you add those clips before you sew in your signature to hold all your pages in place. Now after you have it in, go ahead and look through your pages, make sure that you have them how you want, but they should be the way you want because this is the part you need to double check before you sew them in. So once we have that in, we'll go ahead and repeat that process for the second signature, and then we'll go from there. So if you notice here, my papers stick out a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and trim those. If this happens to you, rule of thumb is go ahead and measure your papers out to your book that you are using to make sure that they are the proper size you want. I'm showing in all the mistakes because these are things that are going to happen while you create your junk journals and learn the junk journaling process. And I don't want you to worry because everything is fixable and everything is just a change in direction for your journal. So here is a second signature going in. I didn't really want to bore you, so I sped up this process a little bit. And then maybe on the next video, I'll go ahead. I don't think I showed you how I put the holes into the journal, the outer cover, but it's the same way that I use the awl to punch the holes into the signatures there. And you just punch your holes the way you want them. You can measure it if you want, but here I am just tying the outsides. And just to correct the layering here of my paper and how far it sticks out, I go ahead and come in with my scissors and just trim up all those edges there. Now I come in again and just kind of fix up my mess here. And I don't worry about things being perfect because remember the title of all these things are a junk journal. So I like my junk journals to look a little junky, a little messy, a little bit mismatched and layered. So that's the look I'm going for here either way. So after I trim these pieces, we're going to go ahead and stop here. And our next video will be all about decorating our pages. And here is where you can use that template. You just get a piece of cardstock and measure out your holes where you want them. Trim it to the size of your inner spine. And you want to punch 3 holes per signature that you are using with your awl. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, come join me for the next one here at Junk Journaling with Emily. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss a video.